So
Hi, Mr.
a warm welcome to everyone. I am going to mute everyone here. Please do observe the protocol. This program is being recorded, and it's a very warm welcome to see many of you here. Some of you are our regular followers who are here, and some of you are here for the first time. I would like to welcome you and welcome our speaker, Radha, who is an amazing lady. So Radha was connected to me through another Rotarian called Joanne. So thank you very much for connecting me to Radha. And what can I say? Radha is an amazing person who has come. She lives in Nepal, a lifelong rebellion for dignified menstruation. That's what she's doing. She is trained as an anesthetic assistant nurse, worked for 24 hours for 4 years, and then converted as an author and an activist. By quitting all privileges, she founded a global network named Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation. There is a website that she has, which is www.dignifiedmenstruation.org. I will share it in the chat if you guys want to have a look at it. Despite experiencing so many threats, challenges, including funding, she also initiated an International Day of Dignified Menstruation. It's on the 8th of December since 2019, which is marked over 56 countries in 2022. She writes books around dignified menstruation in Nepali and English. She received national and international recognition awards for her activism and literacy work, including Rotary District 3292 in 2023. She is invited as a speaker by universities, forums, organizations, etc., all around the globe. She calls for action, menstruation talk, dignified first. And that's very much ties up to what we do as well on menstrual health, and ours is to break the silence. That's break the taboo, the silence. So over to you, Radha. You'll need to unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. Just a second. Yes. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, friends. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great honor and I'm humbled. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Sharmila for your commitment for advocating dignified menstruation. I have so many stories to share. Due to time constraint, I will share few stories about the urgency of dignified menstruation. You may find little bit tough or critical. We are living in 23, so I believe you would agree with me. Before starting my presentation, this is the gentle reminder to all of you. You may work in a finance or communication or sports or right to work or human right, anywhere. And everywhere there are menstruators. Menstruators means those people who born with the uterus and ovaries or menstruate. Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation is a survivor-led global network based on Global South. It is for changing the narratives around menstruation from 5 days bleeding to life cycle approach. Sorry. It is founded in 2019. Is the initiation of Radha Paudel Foundation. Its secretariat office lies in Nepal. And we have a studying committee from Nepal, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Malawi, and USA. And if any of you at the individual level or the organization level like to get the membership, it is available in the website, and it's less than 1 minute business and free. Let me start my story. Actually, when I was about 7 years old, I knew about menstruation as a impure blood seen from the god and a condition for making women weak and dirty when I was about 7 years old from my mom. And I was literally shocked. I encourage you to take a long breath, reflect yourself. I mean, your story, knowing something about menstruation at first. It could be from mother, aunt, in a school, movie, grocery shop, or anywhere. And please write in the chat box or feel free to share during the question answer session. Because of that incident, I was deeply traumatized. In the meantime, I also witnessed several types of menstrual restriction at my home. My mother and 3 sisters were not allowed to cook, not allowed to participate in religious activities, not allowed to touch plant, vegetables, or flowers, not allowed to share bed as before. At the meantime, I also witnessed men were so vocal, including my dad. They were shout to women without any reason. I articulate it. That kind of behavior was because of the menstruation. I felt suffocation. I did not like to live as a girl child. So I attempted suicide at the age of 9. It was my failed attempt, unfortunately. Fortunately, I'm speaking with you all now. My journey, my suffocation, my trauma was continued. I ran away from home for 5 days when I had a first menstruation because I did not like to follow the all restrictions as my 3 sisters and mother were followed. Next year, I joined the nursing college. I knew about menstruation. I mean, the menstrual blood is pure. And because of the menstruation, this planet exists and moves forward. And this is how I enlightened. And then I started to educate to my family, those who never ever been to school. And within a year, all kind of restrictions were abolished at my family. And this is how I started to speak at the public life. To me and the Global South Coalition, the menstrual discrimination is a taboo, shyness, stigma, restrictions, abuses, violence, deprivation from resources and services that associated with the menstruation throughout the life cycle of the menstruators. It is not only the 5 days of the bleeding. It is a form of sexual and gender-based violence, violation of the human right, and it has been practicing across the globe at different names. 5,000 euphemism, and it also available in different forms, magnitude. It is very complex and multifaceted. This is the example of the menstrual discrimination in Australia, in Europe, in UK, in Asia, in North America and South America. And if you like to know more about it, this book is available online, Dignified Menstruation, a Practical Handbook. And you can find the testimonies from 40 contributors from 20 countries across the globe. This is the same example in other way around. In Ghana, the menstruators not allowed to cross the river or communal water source. In Burundi, they restrict to wash or bath. In Egypt, they forbidden to cook or eat cassava bread. In Bangladesh, Nepal, these are the only examples, not allowed to do the religious activities. In Bolivia, Argentina, not allowed to eat avocado, citrus fruits, milk, pork. And in developed countries, Global South, they are afraid to go outdoor activities, including school. And while we share these restrictions, I humbly request to each of you to reflect where their right to dignity, right to food, right to participation, right to freedom. And the same kind of menstrual restriction, if we keep them under the framework of international human rights instrument. Simultaneously, more than two kinds of human rights are violating. Right to dignity, right to equality, right to freedom, right to non-discrimination, right to shelter, right to food, right to health, right to education. These are only the examples. We have already done several types of research, and then we found out that during the one-time menstruation or 24-hour cycle, more than dozens of human rights are violating constantly. So this is how, from my personal to professional experience, I did so many mistakes. I failed several times, and I learned something. So today I wanted to share the few lessons learned. Like in the beginning, I was thinking that it was because of the poverty, because I born and grown up in poor family and poor country and poor continent. But it's incorrect. As I shared already, there are the different kinds of menstrual restrictions are practicing in Australia, Europe, UK, and other developed countries. And likewise, I also thought that the menstrual restriction is a matter of the ignorance, because my parents were never ever been to school. In my country, there was very nominal literacy rate at that time. That was my understanding. But later, when I keep doing the research here in Nepal and outside, I knew that it's not the correct idea. See, the third of women hide period struggle from their partners. This is happening in UK, and nearly half of the women have experienced period shaming in USA. And likewise, for many years, I had a deep feeling that because my home and my country has following the Hindu religion, that is why we have the menstrual discrimination. But later, I found that it was also wrong. And everywhere, most of the religions, in Christianity, in Islam, in Buddhism, in Chanakya, I mean the Hinduism, everywhere the menstruation considered impure, dirty, or weak. And that is why menstruators themselves or non-menstruators ask them to follow the menstrual restriction. And likewise, in the beginning, I was thinking it is only the 5 days of bleeding. I worked for many years for distributing of the menstrual pad, educating the different kind of stakeholders like the faith healers, the youth, the politicians, to maintain the hygiene, distributing the painkillers or medicine for treating the premenstrual symptom, moderate and severe premenstrual symptoms. But I found that it is also incorrect, because the menstrual discrimination is remain throughout our life cycle as like a knob in our body, and it goes throughout the life cycle like a womb to tomb. In developing countries, for example, in my country, the sex selective abortion is still very high. And if you go through the underlying cause, it's because of the daughters are not allowed to do any rituals in the family, not allowed to have the property of the right kind of thing. And in developed countries, still only the 21% women are in a CEO position at private agencies. And the reason is, women are weak. They have menstruation, they have perimenopause, menopause, and they have mood swing. They are weak. That is why they cannot perform the task or assignment is their job intended. So this is how, no matter where we are, there is just some direct and indirect connection of menstrual discrimination, where the menstruators are impacting throughout the life cycle at the immediate or the long-term level. And this is a very little bit complex, but I like the most. Before the 6 years, both girls and the boys, the girl feel safe, free, equal. When she knows something about menstruation, and she start to feel a little bit insecure, unsafe, inferior, control, or powerless. And when she has a first menstruation, her graph will decline. She has to think so many things to maintain the social status, or have to hide the menstruation. And in the meantime, if you see the boys' side, the boys feel safe, free, equal when they are about 6 years, and when they knew something about menstruation from their mother, aunt, or grocery or movie, they continuously feel safe, free, superior, powerful. And when they see their classmate or co-worker or mother have menstruation, they continuously feel themselves as a safe, free, powerful, superior. And this is how the menstruation, menstrual discriminatory menstrual practices help to construct the power and patriarchy in a systemic manner, and it goes in a spiral way throughout the life cycle. And everywhere, if you hear about the development lectures, forums, or the research, everywhere the word of the patriarchy is been using. But we never think, we never discuss how does the patriarchy construct. It's because of the childbirth or the menstruation or something else. So whatever the context, the for us, the menstrual discrimination help to construct and socialize the power and patriarchy. This is the same idea, but in other way around. Between 6 to 9 years, they knew something about it, and between 6 to 12 years, the menstruators consider themselves as impure, dirty, powerless, inferior, weak, and non-menstruators consider themselves pure, powerful, privileged, and superior. And this is how the power and patriarchy construct. And as a result, the menstruators, mostly the menstruators, experiencing different kinds of sexual and gender-based violence. Globally, the home is not a safe place. It's a shadow pandemic. In 2020 April, the General Secretary of UN said is a shadow pandemic, and this is the region. And UN declared that one in three the women globally experience sexual and physical violence. And we would say this is wrong, because the UNA2 considered the menstrual discrimination as a form of sexual or gender-based violence. So this is a very critical idea. And likewise, as I already shared about it, I worked many years for the product. I still continue working about it. We have a factory. We produce the biodegradable menstrual pad and the reusable cloth pad, but we change our mindset. Because when the girl or menstruators have a bleeding, that time, if she's allowed to choose any kind of product as her wish, if she has a water, toilet, shelter, even internet. But if she could not cook, as we shared in earlier slide, if she could not take a bath or wash, if she could not eat when she feel hungry, if she could not participate in social and religious activities, if she is experiencing different kinds of menstrual discrimination, as we discussed earlier, and is she really living with a dignified life at home, school, or workplace? This is a very, very critical time. We need to think beyond the product and the infrastructure. The product and infrastructure are very important for us for making the dignified menstruation, but it is not enough. We have to stretch ourselves in terms of the thinking and our actions. This picture shows during menstruation, she is not allowed to enter in the kitchen, not allowed to go to the school in many cultures, not allowed to participate in the meetings where the men are participating, not allowed to participate in the parliament. So this kind of, we are advocating for this kind of outcomes. Oh, women have to have the participation, they are equal, the gender equality is a human right. But we are missing the underlying cause for barrier for the gender equality. And many of my friends and researchers claiming that the distribution of the menstrual pad or product is a dignified menstruation, but we gently remind them to reflect by themselves whether they are contributing for dignified menstruation or not. We suggest 3P approach, whether the menstrual product are dignified or not. First P is person. That means that the menstruators in all diversities has a right to choose the menstrual product as their wish. And also they have to know about all pros and cons about all kind of product. And at the meantime, she or he has to be free from all kinds of menstrual discrimination, as we discussed earlier. The second P is planet. We are living in 2023 and we are struggling with the climate change, and we need to take care of the environment as well as the climate justice. And our products should not burden to air, soil, water, or entire planet, and also have to have the chemical free. And the third P is a pocket. That means price. It should be affordable with the quality and standards and accessibility with the to the people who really wanted to use it. And likewise, the other lesson learned is a very critical idea. Many of my scholars and research reports said that because of the if we distributing the menstrual pad in school, we can have a quality girls education, or we can retain the girls in schools. It is a partially true, because you can see she has to wake up early in the morning for her management. In many cultures, as we shared earlier, she has separate place for sleeping, for eating, for clothing, for everything. And so within the 24 hours of menstruating day, she has a totally different kind of lifestyle. And because of this kind of activities, extra activities, she is stressed, sick, and then she has a low performance in school, and sometimes she remains absent. And no matter whether she is in school or not, the 5 days of a month are interrupting because of the menstruation. That means 2 months in a year. And gradually she failed in a subject, she failed in a class, and she dropped out from the school. And she also trapped in child marriage. In many countries, especially in the South Asia, not only South Asia, global South, many countries have a high child rate even today. It's because the child marriage intervention never ever talk about the menstrual discrimination. If you see the history, it is already 93 years. The global committee started to work on ending the child marriage, but the child marriage is still the same. And this is the very prominent agenda for the SDG 2030. So this is how we need to think beyond the pad and facilities. And many of my friends also keep saying that those who are working around sexual and reproductive rights, they said, oh, we are contributing for dignified menstruation. But if you see the 9 elements which is developed and implemented by WHO, menstruation is everywhere, but there is no dialogue for dismantling the menstrual discrimination. And those girls who cannot talk about or cannot practice the menstrual dignity at home, she cannot say, oh, I have unsafe sex, I have to have the abortion, or I need a consultation. That kind of things she could not say. So this is how the SRHR or sexual and reproductive health movement also missing the dialogue on dignified menstruation. Likewise, my many friends globally keep saying those who are working around comprehensive sexual education or sexuality education, they are contributing for the menstrual dignity. And again, I like to gently ask to them, where is the menstrual discrimination? We need to be very honest. Which makes what? I mean, does gender norms create the menstrual discrimination, or menstrual discrimination create the gender norms? And globally, we are thinking, oh, gender norms, because of gender norms, menstruators are experiencing the menstrual discrimination. But for us and me, no. It's because of the menstrual discrimination. We never even talk about it openly. That is why it constructs the gender norms. And if we see the 8 elements of comprehensive sexual education, the menstrual discrimination or menstrual dignity is missing again. And if we go through the International Human Rights Instrument, starting from International Human Rights Declaration, it is already 75 years, and we keep talking about the dignity as a principle of the human right, but the we never ever incorporate menstrual discrimination as a violation of the human right. And this is how the dignified menstruation is urgent. Is really the high time to have a dialogue on it. It is a very holistic approach. It is a state of free from any forms of menstrual discrimination, including taboo, stigma, shyness, abuses, restriction, violences, deprivation from resources and services associated with the menstruation throughout the life cycle of the menstruators. And we no one will get the excuses to work on dignified menstruation. Someone may be in the ICU during the COVID pandemic, or maybe in the earthquake in Turkey, or flood in Nepal or Indonesia. All the time, person with the disability, the trans men, queer, everyone, while working everywhere, we need to incorporate the notion of dignified menstruation to achieve the gender equality. And this is the way forward. The same slide which I shared in the beginning. No matter where you are, don't feel regret, don't feel shame. No matter where you are, if you are working for the gender equality, if you are really like to contribute to make the dignified, safe planet, please incorporate the dignified mission. It's a very cross-cutting issue at all levels and at all sectors. I gently would like to remind you all that dignified menstruation is not just about the 5 days of bleeding or issue related to the poverty or illiteracy. Neither is it only a Nepalese problem. It is also not about confronting in religion, ethnicity, country, or region. Very innovative, holistic approach to dismantle all forms of menstrual discrimination, to strive to challenge patriarchy. We believe dignified menstruation is everyone's business. That is why we welcome to men, queer in our conversation, because it is a human rights issue, and it is a human right of more than 50% of the population of this planet. Let's put the dignified menstruation at center as a cross-cutting theme, and for it, just talk wherever you are. We don't need the, if we would have the project fund, it would be wonderful. If not, just keep talking, like Joan talk about dignified menstruation with Sharmila And this kind of conversation we able to create. So keep talking about it and create the space for the dignified menstruation. That means your existence. Respect your existence wherever you are, whatever you have been doing. And please put the menstrual, if you are talking about the something about menstruation, either menopause or menstruation or perimenopause or product or waste management or health or education, please put the dignity at the center. If you put in a dignity at the center as a like lens, it is more easier. It's a kind of emancipation. It's a kind of ignite to change the narratives, to empower the people. And as Sharmila highlighted earlier, we to dismantle all kind of menstrual discrimination. We started the International Dignified Menstruation Day since 2019 because the menstrual discrimination is a form of violation of the human right, and it is a form of gender-based violence or domestic violence. And those who are familiar with the 16 days activism, it is a 14th day of 16 days activism as well. And we are about to, we are already started our preparation for marking 5th International Dignified Menstruation Day. And this year we will be focusing on dignified menstruation as an integral element for ending sexual violence and child marriage at school. And till now, we are experiencing varieties of challenges. It is most of the funders aid to acknowledge the stories from the survivors and the global south, and still we are struggling with the funding. And if you like to know about myself, during the menstruation, even the death ritual of my mom, we were continued. My sister had a menstruation and we were together. I'm sure many of you know about the culture. During the death of the parents, the girls are not eligible to do to put the fire on a pyre of the dead body. But in our case, I took a leadership role to put the fire on a pyre of my mom 15 years back, though I have a brother as well. And we break this kind of gender stereotype and also the menstrual discrimination. And if any of you like to know more about the dignified menstruation, there are the different kind of websites in YouTube channel, and we are in Twitter, Instagram, and the friends from Costa Rica, Uruguay, North America chapter. There are so many chapters here and there, and I also see the friends from UK chapter as well. So, and the few books are available online. Thank you so much for having me and listening me. I'm sure you not feel bored, and I will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Radha, for that. If you have any questions, you could either raise your hand. I leave it to Dr. Meenakshi to moderate the question and answer session. Thank you, Dr. Meenakshi.
Yeah, thank you, Sharmila, and thank you, Radha, for a wonderful, talk. And I think, the menstrual dignity, as you talk about it, is really what we need to do. We are talking all about how we can make the periods a comfortable affair and how we can protect the girl child, and how we can also make it economical for them. So we are all the time saying, give reusable products for the younger girl child, cloth pads with a lining at the back, and for the older woman, 18 plus, if they're willing, they can start using the menstrual cup. Or once they're married, they can use the menstrual cup without any hesitation. But what you have gone through is something that at least I haven't gone through. My mother did tell me about menstruation, and I did tell my child about menstruation. Being a doctor, a gynecologist, it becomes part of my, whatever I teach everybody and my children. So we haven't had this sort of discrimination in my society, but I'm sure it is there everywhere across the world. And that is what we need to remove. And you have done a great job by writing this book and taking this story across everywhere. Congratulations. Any questions, anybody? Yes, Joanne.
Hello. So just for a few of you that are participating, so I'm a Rotarian from the Rotary Club of Montreal in Canada. And I was looking to find, I was made aware of this situation in Nepal in 2013, where I went there in the first time to work on a project to what was called One School, One Nursery. And it was all about teaching kids about science through having fun growing things. To make a long story short, I was presented by a report that spoke about how girls don't go to school for customs and practices that are 1,000-year-old, but also because there was no water in the schools. And so that was kind of an interest of Rotary, to provide fresh water to all kinds of people. So anyways, I met Radha through LinkedIn, believe it or not, and I was looking for somebody who was interested in moving on this issue. And last April, I joined Radha to do a little bit of field work, because I really wanted to know who was this Radha person who was making a lot of noise, and what was she all about? And if I was, as a Rotarian, going to join forces with Radha, I wanted to make sure that she was the real thing, and that she was really, that her mind was screwed on straight. And so I can tell you that my jaw dropped, not because of Radha, but because of some of the things I saw. And going beyond menstrual hygiene management, which is just providing, good quality products that are non-harmful for the environment, etc. I really understood that we need to go beyond that, and that, in order to change the narrative around how women are treated, it's not just about menstrual hygiene management. It is about educating women. It is about educating the little brothers, the uncles, the neighbors. And so I worked with Radha for about a week and a half. I got my boots filled with all kinds of visions and ideas on how to move forward. A lot of it has to do with culture, and a lot of it has to do also with the accessibility to water. But fundamentally, I think it has to do with education to start with, because if there's no willingness to really think differently for all these cultures, and I remember when I was working, I would go to the bathroom to change my pad, and I would hide my pad in my purse and my pants, up my sleeves. And even in Canada, I think we have our own things about menstruation that we need to deal with. So it's not throwing rocks at anybody in Nepal, and it's not about throwing rocks at anybody that has different practices than we do in our own areas, in our own country. But I think as Rotarians, we really have an opportunity to make a difference. For, as Radha would say, for our grandmothers, our nieces, our cousins, our neighbors, it's not just about the people that we interact with, or people far away from where we live, but for everybody around us. My sense is that the change will probably come with the younger generations. Even some of the young women we work with in Nepal were very open and very broad-minded. They still don't cook for their grandparents, because they still believe that the grandparents wouldn't accept the food that was prepared by somebody who had their period. They still don't go to the temple, even though they understand that it's a form of discrimination. So, education, I think, is part of it. The menstrual hygiene management is another part of it. And just to finish my not my rant, but my contribution to the conversation, I'm hoping to develop a global grant in the months to come with the Rotary Club of Bhaktapur in Nepal to have a really effective action. And that's proven to be challenging in many ways, but all mountains are worth climbing and to be able to see on the other side. So we will see where that goes. But also something that stuck with me with Radha's presentation to the groups we spoke to is that she pulls her lip out like this and she says, touch this. So people touch the inside of their lips and she said, that's the inside of a uterus. And that makes it real for people. It makes it real for boys, for girls. And to me, this is what working with Radha has allowed me to do, is to understand, even for me, but also for the Nepali people that we encountered, what it is that we need to do to make a difference. Even if it's small, it's big in the longer term. And while I'm an optimist at heart, I don't believe I will see the complete change during this lifetime. I think it might take 1 or 2 generations for this to change, but every action that we undertake, I think, is worth it. So anyways, thank you, Radha, and thank you, Sharmila, for inviting Radha and sharing this information and this endeavor with everybody.
Very well spoken, Joanne. I'm sure the change will happen. Every one woman that we change, that woman will be able to change, so many more. So yes, we will see change. May not be in our lifetime, but out of the so many million, billion women that are there, we will make a difference to them.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Satya, you have your hand up.
Yes, I was, I thought somebody else was waiting. Okay, good evening again to everybody. And Dr. Meenakshi, good to see you again. We've interacted many times in Chennai.
Yes.
And we've spoken a lot. So I'm happy to see you here again. The thing is, I've come a long way. I evolved from the time when there were taboos and everything, like when 40 years back, when I first attained my menstruation. We did have all these taboos, and I was not allowed to go into the puja room and things like that. And we are supposed to sleep alone and not touch anything. And those things were very prevalent then. And that time we used only clothes. I remember cloth pads. I think after 1 or 2 years only, I ventured with this carefree, which was available then with the loop and a belt and all that. And it used to fall off when I go to school. I was not very comfortable with. So those times, from then I've seen the transformation. Like after a few years.
Can we highlight Satya, please?
Satya is
you
not
can remove
on video.
my face.
You want to see me? I'm not very presentable. Okay, let me just. Okay, that's me in a very casual mode.
No problem.
Yeah. So I've been kind of seen the transformation from then to now. After a few years, I saw people are more aware. When I was in college, I did my architecture in School of Architecture. By the way, I'm Radha's classmate, Meenakshi.
Radha Ishwar's classmate.
Yes. So
nice.
My condolences to you also for the recent. Anyways, there also, we used to talk so openly when we were like 30, 40 years back. We used to say when we have our periods, we tell the boys in our class, okay, we have my periods, we have to rest. And we were quite open about it. I never felt even then that we had that restriction of what we say now. Like, I wanted to ask Radha that, because she was saying, is it the latest statistics that she's talking about where people are still, not aware till they get the periods, they're not aware about what periods is all about, because we in school are also educated about all these things even 40 years back. So I was a bit taken aback when she told me that things are really bad. Even in Europe, people don't know 1% or 2% or 1 in every 8 people, or they don't know about menstruation till they reach that stage and all. So I just want to check with her again. Is it something that is a recent study that she did? Because what I see from the trend these days is that with the more of internet and Google and people able to communicate and things like that, and awareness that is going around, I think even men, we saw 2 of them participating, and I've seen a lot of contribution from men also. They want to get the awareness on this, and even in Rotary and otherwise. and they don't feel shy to go buy a pad for us or go to the shop to. Of course, the medical pharmacy wraps it in a paper and, does all the covering up possible. But what I'm saying is, even now, I don't go to temples when I have periods, but you don't touch a plant or go do gardening when you have periods, not because of the taboo, but generally your body temperature is higher at that time. And maybe that's when we touch the plants or something, it might get a little wilty or something. But other than that, I don't think there's a major, nowadays the trend has changed. And to a certain extent, I see even in villages, people are getting the awareness. I've visited a lot of villages and I noticed that. So I just want to check with Radha whether, has it changed now, or what the statistics she put forth to us? Is it a recent one, or is the situation still that bad? Is what I want to know, the awareness part of it. Thank you.
Dr. Meenakshi, shall I speak now or later?
Yeah, please speak now.
Okay. Thank you, Satyajaya ji. It's very interesting to know. Actually, and honestly, there is no scientific research for the menstrual discrimination. If you go through the literature, most of the research done by UN and the bigger INGOs focusing on the hygiene. And while they are conducting the research on hygiene or product, and they come up with the different kind of restrictions. For example, in Bangladesh, they are not allowed to eat pineapple, coconut, citrus fruit, something like that. So based on secondary data, we analyze and knew that the different kind of menstrual discrimination is happening all around the globe. And the research, the data which I presented earlier is a recent data, like 2018, 2019, 2020, something like that. Just recently, just last year, even in UK, more than 30% of the girls did not like to continue their sports because of the menstrual stigma. And in Australia, out of 10, 8 girls don't